There we go. All right. You guys should be able to hear me now. So let's see. Let's kind of go back here and see what's going on. Boy, these are fun. These are fun. All right, so we're going to get into it now that you guys should be able to actually hear me here. I'm going to give it a couple minutes for this audio to kick in. It's delayed on my screen. There we go. All right. You guys should. All right, so we are live. It's 9:04, so I'm not horribly late. This is hopefully over time this will get better. We'll be able to systematize this process, but you're just going to have to bear with me as we're going through this. And of course, as soon as I start, train goes by, the audio wasn't working. Second time I get the audio to work, my dog starts barking. So this should be good. So today we're going to be talking about getting everything you can out of all you've got. Great book by Jay Abraham. Just really applicable steps that you can take in terms of marketing. In fact, I would say it's one of the best marketing books on the market. I mean, there's just a ton of information. So I read it once a year. It's one of those books that I just go through every time. Just there's always something that I'm going to be pulling from it that's just really, really good. So it's about 400 pages, so it's a pretty thick book. With that said, we're just going to get through chapter 1 today, which is called Flight Plan. I wanted to get through a couple chapters. I'm not going to read it. I just want to pull out a few highlights, let you know how it's applicable, and how you can use some of that in your business today. So let's see, right off the bat, Jay says, amazing thing, the human brain is capable of understanding incredible, complex, and intricate concepts, yet at the same time, unable to recognize the obvious and simple. And really, that's the preface for the whole book. So I think one thing that Jay does really well is he really pulls out the need to think outside of the box, to really look at conceptually, move away from just thinking of marketing your thing to just thinking of interconnectivity between human relationships and businesses and industries that really could be plugged in together, and different, just unique approaches that you should be taking to whatever industry you're in. And so this book really does highlight that. So when he says the human brain is capable of understanding incredibly complex and intricate concepts, yet at the same time unable to recognize the obvious and simple, this book is filled with things that just seem so obvious that as you read through them, certain marketing relationships that can be birthed out of some very simplistic connections, you look at it and you're just like, how did I not see that? So he comes right out of the gate and he's like, think about the fact that ice cream was invented, and then it took a few hundred years for someone to come up with the ice cream cone. An obvious solution, right? Or what's another one he uses? The sandwich, He's like, people were eating meat, for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it took somebody, all that time to come up with the sandwich. It's two really good illustrations that just make you go, wow. I was looking through, I think it was National Geographic's or something, one of those websites, or maybe it was a post on, I think it was a post on Instagram, and it showed, women outside by a river just beating the clothes against a rock to wash them. And I thought, how ridiculous, how time consuming, how just inefficient and exposed to the elements and just all that. But that was the only way they could do it. And then someone comes along and invents the washing machine. And think about the washing machine is not that crazy complex. It's like a tub with something that just aggregates the water, and agitates everything. And so those are the kind of things that Jay does really well. He allows you to think in ways that some things may not seem so obvious until you actually create a disciplined mind to look for things that are obvious and easy, out of the blue problems. They're clear problems that you just need to create a solution for. So somebody's looking at women having to carry this clothes out to a river, and wash it and then carry it back up and put it, and then they just birthed out a whole idea. In fact, I remember my grandmother actually had one of those washing machines where you would put the clothes through like the rollers to wring out all the water. Anyway, so it's evolved, to say the least. So he reiterates this in chapter 1. He says, you are surrounded by simple, obvious solutions that can dramatically change your life and your business. And I'm telling you, if you don't, in fact, buy the book, that one sentence, if acted upon in a disciplined manner, can radically change things, because it's looking, I guess, if you were to think about it in terms of just hearing people's problems. And in fact, Jay talks about like looking at a problem in one industry and seeing how there's a solution in another industry. But if you just approach the world of filtering things through, what's the biggest problem that I'm hearing from my client? It doesn't matter what it might be. Like early on, I recognized, like on the web design world, people would come to get a new website designed, and it was obvious after communicating with them that the problem actually wasn't that they needed a new website. It was that they didn't have any traffic going to it. So they assumed, oh, let's redo it. But in reality, although I could have sold them a new website design, what they actually needed was a marketing budget to facilitate the capabilities of getting more traffic to that website. So really, you are surrounded by simple, obvious solutions. There's just things that exist. I remember one time we had a client that was a car dealership, and they were looking for places to put advertisement. And just looking at some research around there, we discovered, I found this. I did some competitive research on where the biggest competitor was advertising. And through link building, discovered like, oh, wow, there's a racetrack like in the same city as this dealership with thousands of car enthusiasts. And the competitor had a couple small advertisement spots, but instantaneously getting advertisement spots, getting some sponsorship opportunities, and creating some unique offers for that audience radically has the opportunity to transform a business. But it was so obvious. Like, here's a racetrack, and here's a very inexpensive form of advertisement to car enthusiasts that I think is transformational. And I can give you a ton of examples like that, but the reality is, like, so much of them are just very obvious if you're thinking through the need to see things as from a problem perspective. So the red pill of marketing is direct response. Jay talks about direct response. This isn't what Jay says. This is what I'm saying. If you think it like people use like the matrix illustration of red pill versus blue pill, the red pill is direct response, human psychology focused advertisement wins all the time. And this is what I hope to accomplish in this channel. And I think Jay's book is going to be a great preface for some of that. Jay talks about in chapter 1, there's only 3 ways to grow your business. He talks about everybody looks at it from thousands and thousands of different channels or thousands of different ways to grow a business. But he says, really, if you break it down, there really is only 3. One of those is increase the number of clients, increase the average size of the sale per client, and number 3 is increase the number of times a client returns and buys again. So those are the only 3 ways that you can grow a business. And if you think about that, you could break those down and go, okay, how are we going to do that? Can we increase the number of clients we have? Can we increase the average size of the sale per client? Sometimes people are restricted. They can't do that. The third way, increase the number of times a client returns and buys again. So those are 3 ways that you need to focus, and maybe it's just looking at one of those. Maybe you can't increase the average size. Maybe it's because of the competitive nature of your business that you're unable to, you're already above everyone else. So that's not going to necessarily help anything. And increase the number of times they come back. Maybe you only sell something once, like roofing is a good example. You have a 30-year roof on, you sell them once. There are other elements of things that you could be selling. We won't get into that right now. But the point is, having them come back again isn't necessarily the thing that's going to do it. So it's increasing the number of clients in that case. Next, Jay kind of talks about how to increase the number of clients in terms, or he talks about like the LTV and using, and I've talked about this before, the lifetime value of your client. If you understand the value of your client over however many years they purchase from you, you have a significant opportunity to determine how much you can pay to acquire that customer. And that's where it's really important. That's where you have some transformational opportunity. If you understand the average customer is with you for X amount of years and you understand that lifetime value, that allows you to go, how much can I spend to actually acquire them? And Jay gives some great illustrations. He talks about Miles Labs. Oh no, I'm sorry. He gives a story of some sales guys and what I think the average commission was like 10% or something on a sale. There was $180 was the profit for the first sale, and then whatever it equaled to. I think at the end of the day, he said the salespeople got like $20, $20 on the first sale, and they couldn't figure out why these sales guys weren't like killing it, with more customers. And he's like, it's $20. And then so what he did was he did the calculations of like how much this customer is worth to them over the next year. And the profit margin was $3,000 over a 12-month period, okay? And so what he did was he said, why not just give the salespeople the full profit margin on the first sale, $180? Because you're going to make you're going to make $3,000 over 12 months minus $180. You're going to be okay. And this is where a lot of companies can miss out on some critical metrics. Like you could lose money on your first purchase. You can lose money on your first purchase if you understand your lifetime value. Because if you could get them in once and you actually lost money or you broke even, but you're going to make money over a long period of time, you could spend more to acquire them than your competitors. Most businesses go wrong because they're trying to make profits on the first sale. Now, of course, there are times you have to do, like going back to the roofing company, you can't break even on that. You have to make the sale. But the point is, if you understand the margins, the lifetime value, even if you know that they're only going to buy, if it's a 30-year, roof, they're going to come back one other time. You do the calculations on the total profit margins of that investment, and then you can determine how much you can spend to acquire them and still be profitable. He goes on to talk about Miles Labs published a small cookbook filled with spicy food recipes, great quality, gave it away for free, and but they didn't sell food. They weren't in the food market, but what they did sell was Alka-Seltzer, right? So super creative. Just like we're going to fill you with spicy food and then we're going to pitch to you Alka-Seltzer. It's that kind of stuff in this book. There's illustrations like that all over and it just cracks me up because a lot of people miss out on like just some unique opportunities that you can do that. You can figure out how to acquire a customer. He talks about avoiding costly learning curves. And one of those things is he says borrowing success practices from other industries and applying them to your own. Sorry, I know I'm rocking a lot, so just bear with me. He talks about borrowing success practices from one industry and applying them to your own. This is incredibly useful. There could be a company that's doing something that is not super profitable for the company. It could be a CRM they use. It could be a process they use. It could be the way that they transport something. It could be the way that they process packages, and it applies. Or you can take that into another industry that has nobody is doing it that way. And so those opportunities are endless. So really it's like if you take a minute and you look at your industry and then you look at something that might be relevant to your industry but not the same thing, and just begin to look at some of the ways they process transactions, they process information, whatever it is they do, you can extract information from there that will be applicable to your business and could transform it because nobody else is doing it that way. It can streamline something. So really, again, it goes back to like understanding what that is and just getting better at looking for that kind of thing. He's an approach that's as common as dirt in one industry can have the power of an atomic bomb in an unrelated industry. I don't remember if that's him or me, but that's a reality. I mean, there are illustrations. FedEx. I think it might be in the book. He talks about how he saw how the banking industry processed payments and how they use like the hub and spoke model where they took all of and then it went out from there. And so FedEx looked at that and they said, boy, if we did that with packages, we could get packages guaranteed the next day. And so they took that model and they applied it to their own and they transformed what they were doing. So George Thomas, deodorant inventor, he was looking at he was frustrated. I don't know why he was frustrated with this, but I guess he was. He was frustrated with the ballpoint pen, or I'm sorry, deodorant. He was frustrated with the way that deodorant was applied to the body. And one day he was using a ballpoint pen, and it occurred to him like how that process worked. So he applied it to deodorant, made the roll-on deodorant, right? So it's like completely two different markets, but you take one technology and you apply it to another, and you create a whole streamlined, like, new product. So he drives home the need to really engulf yourself. Oh, so he talks about customer-client relationships, and he drives home the need to really engulf yourself in your client's business. David Ogilvy, famous direct response marketer, probably one of the most well-known. Ogilvy and Mathers. Ogilvy is still an industry. I think they got, 20 plus locations, super well known. They do like marketing stuff for some of the biggest industries. It's kind of gotten away from where Ogilvy brought it. Ogilvy brought it to like measurable marketing like results, and now they're more like branding, but it's not completely out. But he was a genius, and he said something along the lines of like, when you're selling something, treat the person that you're selling to as if they were your wife. Like, be that respectful, and don't try to like, bulldoze them or whatever other marketing techniques that are out there that are super annoying. But the point is like, care for the people that you're actually, assuming that you have something worth selling, care for the people you're selling to. And he really gets into that, and we'll talk about that actually in a little bit when he talks about the distinction between client and customers. Here he also goes on the one and only unique selling proposition. If you haven't heard this term, you need to Google it. You need to, when it comes to understanding how to differentiate yourself, you need a USP. You need some framework to understand what is distinctively different about you as a business from your competitors. In fact, Dan Kennedy uses the saying, he says, when you're thinking of your unique selling proposition, you need to ask yourself, why should I buy from you and not somebody else, and or do nothing at all? And so if you just Google like illustrations of unique selling propositions, you'll find ones, all over the place. But the point is, you need a unique selling proposition. What is distinct about your business or your product versus everybody else? And why should someone buy from you? A unique selling proposition, why I should buy from you and not someone else, or do nothing at all. Again, that's the Dan Kennedy thing. So that really is a class in itself. Like a whole course can be brought on USP. But there should be something in your collateral, your print, your marketing that talks about what distinguishes you from everybody else. So when he's talking about like being distinct, he also talks about something called risk reversals. And he says you must take away as many barriers of entry as possible. And so this is where you're just kind of thinking through like, what are the barriers of entry for my client? How can I remove those? Especially, this is when it's key. If you're super confident and competent in what you do, the risk reversal method should be something you should be utilizing every single time. Like, this is the most obvious missing component of a good marketing tactic if you are good at what you do. And so basically a risk reversal is like saying something along the lines of, if you're not happy, we guarantee we'll we guarantee our work. The Wright brothers, he uses the illustration. The Wright brothers were trying to get the U.S. government to sign a contract for a new plane, and so they ended up sending them something that said, "Don't send a penny, just send the specs. We'll build it, we'll bring it, and you don't pay us a dime until you accept delivery of it, like until you say you like what we made." That is a legitimate risk reversal. That is the kind of thing that you want to be doing. That is the kind of thing that is going to differentiate you without a doubt. Assuming that you're competent, don't give a risk reversal if you can't actually guarantee or you don't think you can perform what you're going to utilize as a risk reversal. The next one, bigger, better, and happier. He talks about cross-selling and upselling recently acquired customers. Now, I think for whatever reason, we think when somebody purchases from us that that's it. Like, don't go back and ask for them to upsell something else or to, depending on the industry. But for most industries, we think, okay, let's nurture them now. That a lot of people don't have secondary offers, but that's a conversation for another day. But we go to the next customer. But the reality is, the person who just purchased you, there's like that dopamine release. They've just purchased. You're performing the work. Cross-selling something that's similar to what they have and might need, or upselling them to something that's more expensive and better, is always has a greater degree of conversions to somebody that's already purchased from you. They've already trusted you. There's already been an exchange of monetary value. And so those are opportunities for you to offer something that's going to solve more of their problems. He talks about testing. There's a section called testing 1, 2, 3 testing. So there's this illustration he gives about Henry Ford, and to be honest, I don't know. Henry Ford was definitely the first millionaire in the United States. I don't know if he made it to $1 billion, but anyway, he uses this illustration where Henry Ford basically would. When he was thinking about hiring somebody in like a C-level position, he would take them to lunch. And when they ordered food, he would wait to see if they salted the food before they tasted it. And if they salted it before they tasted it, he wouldn't hire them. And evidently, his assumption was they would hastily try to push forward ideas without actually seeing if they were good. They wouldn't test it first. Now, however you feel about that, it could be, I don't know. I think it's a little too far. I don't know. People, I don't know. Anyway, that's a Henry Ford thing. But the point is, he talks about testing stuff and seeing, like, make sure things work. And then think outside of the box, because as you do that, you're going to find some hidden things. Here's one that was interesting to me. He said a lot of perfume and makeup companies will actually hire and pay the salary of those who work inside retail stores and work the cosmetic counters. Now, I don't know why I didn't know that. I don't spend a lot of time in the cosmetic counters, but super interesting. I mean, think about, like, there's actually a company I know too that goes to church with us that they do chip repairs for Windows inside dealerships. So they work with the dealership and they're inside. Really innovative concept. Next section he talks about love is better the second time around. So not really sure what he's going with that subtitle. I didn't understand it, but the cost of acquiring a new customer versus re-engaging with one you've already acquired, even if they haven't done business with you. This is a big deal. So, like, if you pay, like, if you're doing a marketing thing, and this is why it's so important to have, like, a database in place. If you're paying for marketing and you're getting customers to be interested in the services that you have, even if they don't buy from you, you paid to acquire that customer. So it's super critical that you're recording that information, or you're incentivizing them to exchange their information with you in exchange for whatever you're offering them that has value. And so even if they haven't purchased from you, it's a far far less inexpensive route to re-engage those customers and get them to purchase with you, or if they've purchased in the past, to get them to purchase something from you versus going out and trying to acquire a whole new customer. And that's it. I think that's it. I think that's all I got here. Let me see. I think that's all I got. Yeah. So yeah, chapter 1 is just getting you to just think outside of the box, open up your horizons. He brings in some really radical, like really innovative illustrations that you're going to have to read for yourself. So if you don't have the book, I'll drop a link in the comments after this is published. But yeah, so grab the book. I'm planning on every Saturday 9 a.m. So if so I'll see you all. We'll be going into chapter 2, which is Great Expectations. Good chapter. So we'll be talking about that next week. What was this? This was a half an hour, and so yeah, we'll see y'all next week. And appreciate everybody who was here, dropping in and out. And take care. Have a great weekend.